The Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Welcome to the show. As always, it is our highly packed show following the football weekend and everything sports weekend here on this Monday. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 and streaming live like we are right now every single Monday on our YouTube channel. So hi to everyone watching on YouTube, and thank you for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe. Got a lot of stuff coming up today. Definitely going to get into some University of Hawaii football in just a second. Hawaii coming out with a nice big win against Northern Iowa on Saturday. We'll hear from head coach Timmy Chang and what he had to say post-game coming up in the next segment. Also coming up in hour number 2, we'll let you hear from a couple of the players, that being quarterback Braden Shager and also wide receiver Nick Senecal. So make sure you guys stick around for hour 2, or you can always listen to any part or watch today's show on demand. Get into some high school football, of course, some NFL. We are 2 for 3 here in the studio in terms of whose teams won this weekend. Not very dramatic for either team. Obviously, Paul's New York Jets played last week Thursday, and it was a wipeout, but a little dramatic for our Michael Lescaro, who is making his way into the studio and will be here in just a little bit. But we'll get into some NFL discussion, a lot of football, and yeah, we're gonna have a fun show, and it's gonna be a good day as it always is. And we are kicking off your guys' week. So as always, thank you for tuning in here on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network or hawaiisportsradio.com. And want to already say hi to everyone else listening from around the country and on the continent and potentially around the world. You guys can all text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481 if you guys want to get in on the conversation. And we look forward to always interacting with you. All right, getting into the University of Hawaii football game. Woo! We're back, baby. We are back. We are going to beat the number 25 ranked Boise State when they come into town. I am back on that train again. Last week, you guys know we kind of took a little bit of a dip in terms of our positive Paul and Ku'ule hat, because following
Which
that
was deserved.
It was entirely deserved following that really disappointing, uncharacteristically bad performance against Sam Houston. Went into this Northern Iowa game, and I still 100% believe, I know you will get some people that'll be like, oh, well, they're just an FCS, Hawaii should have won. Hawaii should have won just because we are better, but we just don't know which team was going to show up. We've talked about it before that Hawaii traditionally does a lot better at home, as most teams do, but for some reason Hawaii is that much better at home versus on the road. Able to just put like the stomping on Northern Iowa, as we said they should, but we're being a little conservative in terms of not knowing which team will show up. Beating the Panthers 36-7, allowing just that one touchdown in the second quarter, and the defense just playing lights out, putting up 15 points in the first quarter. It was a phenomenal performance all around. Penalties, 75 yards in penalties, but at least it wasn't kind of to the detriment like we saw against Sam Houston. Complimentary football on both sides. It was so beautiful to watch. And this was the team leading up to Sam Houston that I kept talking about. On paper, we're so much better than Sam Houston, yada yada yada. We're gonna beat them. Like, I don't care how well they did in the FCS. Hawaii's the better team. And that's why when the game happened against Sam Houston, it was just a complete shock. And then we went into the game against UNI being a little bit more conservative. You guys heard us talk about how much the Panthers were so good at the run game. I mean, they're just a good run team. They have the Ty Edwards, who we mentioned is built entirely almost like a receiver. But I mean, Hawaii held them to 72 yards rushing, which was like, what is going on? This Hawaii team has been phenomenal. It was amazing to see. So pulling up some of these scores here for you for UNI. We're going to, like I said, talk through at least the recap of the game and then get into hearing what Timmy Chang had to say coming up in the next segment. But 36-7 right there. Pull up some of the stats for you for those watching on YouTube. And it looked like a completely different team. Braden Shager, for his part, he looked healthy. He looked bouncy. He looked sharp. He looked he was just entirely confident, a change than what he looked like. I mean, the ball coming out of his hands, it had some type of zip on it that I feel like we haven't seen in a while. And it was awesome to see him perform like that because thank you, Braden. You at least make myself look better because I kept having your back and saying, like, Braden is a good quarterback. He is the best quarterback on the roster, and I'm going to trust Timmy Chang and Dan Morrison's opinion and eyes when they see that and say that he is still always a starter. Obviously, you're going to have people that are going to say whatever they want to say on social media and whatnot, but
a lot of them have already made up their mind, in my opinion.
That's true. But on this show, you heard us talk about Braden a lot, and hopefully a lot of you that were a little iffy about it were able to really see that come to fruition on Saturday, because he did look like he had that extra pep in his step. Like I said, the velocity at which the ball moved for some of these passes was really, really impressive. You guys hear me talk about it all the time when I reference quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like Braden's them, but from a college level, from a college level, to have that type of zip on the ball, it's not something that every college quarterback has. So he looks good. He did get a little banged up. We saw that in the third quarter. So hopefully, again, we go into another bye week. At least he gets some time to heal before they go on the road. But he did look a lot better. Now, to UNI's credit, they still had a significant time of possession, just under 27 minutes to Hawaii's 33 minutes. But they were moving the ball on that first drive. I mean, that first drive lasted 7 plays for 44 yards. And I believe it was about 4 minutes of just that opening drive for Northern Iowa before that punch out by Sebo Brown and then recovered by Jemai Otis. And then that takeaway leads to a touchdown for the Rainbow Warriors. And we mentioned it last week how, hey, Hawaii just needs to score first. And because it's harder to cut into a deficit when your game is mostly predicated on the run. And that's what we saw. And that's why Hawaii, fortunately, got that turnover. Because, again, I was getting nervous. I was like, ooh, okay, there you go. There's Northern Iowa moving the ball like we expected them to do. And then the defense steps up. And then the offense is able to take advantage of it. Way different from what we saw at Sam Houston, and that started to be the change. Also, I mean, Braden Shager, 12 for 12, couple of touchdowns until his first incompletion. So it lasted about a quarter and a half. So he was on it. The receivers, to their credit, though, I mean, Braden was putting it there, but there were some amazing catches by a couple of their receivers, including Nick Senecal and, of course, Dekel Crowdis. So the team were just connecting on all fronts, and this was the team that we expected to continue to show up, that showed up against UCLA. Maybe the offense could have been a little better against UCLA, but we're like, you know what? This team is solid. Sam Houston, we're going to go there. We're going to kick butt. And then just everyone except for maybe Cam Stone decided to not have a good game that day. And they had the all-player meeting on Monday. Who knows what's said? I think Dennis Thurman, they said it on the Spectrum broadcast last night, that Dennis Thurman told them, like, yeah, it's great, all-player meetings, but it's all about what you're going to do with it. So, fortunately, the all-player meeting, whatever was discussed, it worked because all the players showed up, they did their job, and that is the Hawaii team that we know has been here and has existed. And it was nice to finally see a complete game from the Rainbow Warriors, from the offense to the defense, getting multiple stops and turnovers. And it was just complimentary football all around. And I hope all of the fans enjoyed it. I mean, I even enjoyed watching the rebroadcast on Spectrum yesterday. That's how much I wanted to go back and see what are all the little things that I might have missed on the game day. And it was still as exciting as when I was there, which is, I feel like it hasn't been like that in a while because it's always been kind of cringy on game days, but it was so nice to see this. And again, I will go back. Northern Iowa is a solid team. They're ranked number 19 in the FCS for a reason. We talk about how the FCS and the FBS have closed the gap in terms of just the difference in talent and resources. And now we started to see this happen, and it was awesome to see Hawaii do so incredibly well.
This was the exact performance that you and I talked about, sorry, that you, Ku'ule, and I, Paul Brecht, talked about last week needing in this game, right? Where obviously we had some worries, some apprehension with the quality of UNI coming in because Northern Iowa dominates the line of scrimmage typically, offensively and defensively. Their defense in general typically holds teams down. I know they gave up 34 points against Nebraska. We're better. Sorry.
By the way, I remember texting Paul that. I was like, oh, they gave up 34 to Nebraska and Hawaii scored 36. We're better.
Yeah,
we're better.
Numbers are numbers are numbers. Going to your point on Braden, that was the guy that a lot of us expected to see coming into this year. Because for me, I think of the end of last season. 3 of the last 4 games, W's. They look outstanding. It seemed like something had finally clicked. And you hope to see that going into this year, and you felt good about that during the spring and the summer and the swagger of all the players and the talk, and you saw the defense, and you feel the energy. And then it came out, and I wrote this in our 3 takeaways article you can check out on hawaiisportsradio.com, where obviously I understand it's against an FCS school. That doesn't mean an FCS school is just a pushover. We saw that with a program last week who went from FCS up to FBS and is looking like a pretty darn good team right now. They also just laid the bang thing on on New Mexico State this past weekend. So Sam Houston, somebody to look out for as the year goes on. But Hawaii starts the year slow, inconsistent, the penalties, and that was something you mentioned at the start of the game. It seemed like it was just going to be more of the same. I mean, a penalty, personal foul penalty, 15 yards extends the drive after the defense looked like they forced a 3-and-out, and then after that turnover, everything changed. You get Caleb Brown punching the ball out, Jemai Otis falls on it, and from there, everything changed. The confidence on the defense, they didn't let up much all night, the rest of the night rushing. So we talked about the running attack, right? They held the Panthers to a season low on the ground. The Panthers have played 2 FCS opponents, guys, so they had an opportunity to play, and put up big numbers. They also played Nebraska last week. Hawaii's defense did better than that. A number I will bring up, and I'll throw it back to you afterwards. The defense, we've talked about it so much that we just needed the offense to finally show up. Now we see when the offense shows up, there are big things that are capable for this team. The defense, through 4 weeks of college football, through 4 games for everybody of college football, has ranked 15th in the nation out of all FBS schools in terms of overall PFF grade. 15th out of every school in the FBS. That's talking the SEC, ACC, all of that. I hear you about who have they played? They've played teams who are pretty darn good at running the ball, teams who are very, very physical, and teams who are putting up points against others. And guess what? The defense shows up week in, week out, and does its job. So it's impressive to see. It was really nice to see. It's what everyone in Hawaii needed to see from the Rainbow Warriors.
And again, I want to make sure we emphasize the fact that Northern Iowa is a quality FCS program. I know we will still get people that will be like, well, it doesn't really mean anything because we should beat them. But then you probably weren't even watching the game because Hawaii was just clicking. I mean, that offense was clicking. That was a humongous team. They were a big team on the line.
They were bigger than Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii was able to do their thing in the trenches, and that's why it was so impressive to watch because this is the team that we've been expecting. Again, we're going to say we're better than you, Nebraska, because we put up more points on Northern Iowa. Yeah, okay, we let up a touchdown versus how they let up a field goal, but we put up more points against Northern Iowa. But it's still a relatively fair comparison to make that was the kind of the standard where Northern Iowa played a ranked FBS opponent in Nebraska, and Hawaii was able to put up the same type of offense and also contain them almost as well as Nebraska was able to do. And that's where we draw the line, where it's like, see, this is the team that Hawaii we've been expecting to be for so long. All right, well, enough. Well, not enough entirely. We'll definitely continue what we got to say about the game. But enough for now. What we have to say, we want to let you guys hear what head coach Timmy Chang had to say about this game. So we'll be right back to let you guys hear what he had to say post-game when we come back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? That sucks. Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro just making his way in here into the studio. A nice little groove that we have going on. By the way,
my favorite sound stripe of ours.
Nice. By the way, did you guys, so obviously like most of the time watching the game, it's like enclosed, so I don't really get the full vibe of the night. Was it a good vibe of disco night on Saturday? I just real quick, I'm like, I don't really get to hear too much of the songs and everything, but I'm just curious if it was kind of like a good vibe, 21st of September type of Earth, Wind, and Fire mood that we had going on Saturday.
I think it was a good vibe. I wish there was more disco songs. I don't know. I felt like there could have been even more, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. Where it was a nice start, it was a nice foundation, but I'm excited to see what future disco nights look like as well, especially because a really good attendance for the opponent, for the circumstances surrounding nearly 10,000 people in the building last night, and it seemed like 2 nights ago, seemed like they were all having a really good time. So in that sense, seemed like a success.
Hey, official attendance is 11,402, so we'll just go with that.
I mean, I wasn't really too big on the disco thing. It didn't really feel like a disco thing. And I don't know if we should have a disco thing. You know, that's that decade. You know, we'll leave that in the past.
Hater of the disco.
No, but that's my segue. That's my segue into our next segment about.
There goes Michael yelling again.
With Timmy Chang and how he's able to adapt and evolve, because I think in this game, we didn't really see a pure run and shoot. We saw some of him incorporating what he took from Nevada with Jay Norvell when he was there, with some air raid concepts and using all 5 eligible receivers. I thought that was the biggest revelation in this game, having Landon Sims being a receiver out of the backfield, as well as Tylen Hines back there. So, and
Landon Sims being a quarterback.
Yeah, they pulled out a lot of funky stuff on Saturday.
Right, it was Landon Sims' pass, right?
Landon
to
Sims'
Hunter
pass
in the
to
2-point conversion.
Higham, in
It's
the
like,
back of the end zone.
Okay, special teams. Anyways, before we continue our analysis of the game, because it can continue again, we want to make sure you guys hear from the head man. So this is what head coach Timmy Chang had to say following their 36-7 win over Northern Iowa on Saturday.
Anytime you win, it's a good thing. I thought this game was won in the trenches, especially with a team that dominates time of possession as they do. and looking back at it, we won the time of possession and executed on both sides of the ball. I thought the defense did a great job of knocking out the run, in which they do, and then as well as taking the ball away and having some of the strip fumbles. And so some of the things that we're practicing on offense and defense are starting to happen. It came to life this game and right in time, coming off back-to-back losses.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the win. Most points in the 3 years under you, the offense moving up and down the field today. What was it specifically about the offense that you liked the most as you guys now head into a bye week and eventually conference play?
I really like the way the offensive line is starting to come together under Coach Derek Fabi. And being able to, run the ball a little bit and pass protect in our offense, very key. As well as, Braden threw the ball pretty well tonight. And I was able to find the receivers. And again, the receivers just being in a position to, just get open and do their job, what they need to do, and catch the ball. And so, overall, I thought it's a pretty good deal. There's some things that obviously we can always clean up, but from an overall perspective, a lot better than the first 3 weeks.
Coach, congratulations on the win. This was a big opponent. The opponent had size. How happy are you, that you were able to execute so well, not only offensively, but also control the game defensively against a good-sized opponent? How happy are you with that now going forward?
Yeah, we were watching tape against a big Nebraska team and what they've been able to do the previous weeks. Some of these FCS opponents, man, they're scary. They come in here with nothing to lose and everything to gain and the respect. And I think this is another opponent. They're big. They're big up front, both sides of the ball. And so for us, it's a good test. I think we knew that we're going to have to play physical on defense and tackle big guys, and then cover the receivers when they decide to pass, and then on offense, to block their guys, their front. Gave fits to other big teams. They came off a Big Ten opponent in Nebraska, and we knew it was going to be a tough game. And so hats off to our interior guys up front on both sides of the ball, the front seven and the five on offensive line.
Maybe asking you a little bit more about some of that feeling of catharsis that might have gone into tonight. Before the game, could you sense any increased edge from your guys, their emotions, or during the game, some more focus or anything along those lines?
Yeah, it's you never know. I would think that the games against the last 3 games that we're ready to play at Sam Houston, and we're ready to play at UCLA. The thing about coming off a game of what we did last week was just a lot of it was self-inflicted on us, and so coming into a week like this, you could imagine what these meetings inside this room were and what we talked about, and not talk as much too, because everything was really said. Everything that we established, everything that we've gone through the last 2 years, and even in January, from January to this point now, is like we're here, we're in it now, and we have a chance to be very tough to beat if we do the right things. And so, just kind of feeling them out. It was a lot more like, I don't know if it was quiet, and I didn't know if it was nervous or them just being more focused. But I think after watching them play, they had a sense of urgency to them that I enjoyed and I loved watching. And of course, being on the sideline with the rest of their teammates, we call them our developmental guys. I mean, they brought the energy again for our guys, and so really it's just now executing and coaching off of this game and being able to say, hey, we got some things that we can work on, but this is where we want to be as far as playing.
And one follow from me on your thought on Braden tonight. I think he completed his first 12 and a couple picks late in the first half, but other than that, he seemed pretty sharp. Yeah, he's pretty sharp, and that's what it's going to take, right? I think the fans in Hawaii know in this offense that we go as the quarterback goes, and so
He wanted to be better. He knew he had to be better, but the way how tough he is mentally, and how he responds is what I really appreciate about him. And so he did a great job. We go back to the drawing board, and we get into conference play now. And so it's putting everything together and building off of this win.
Coach, late into the game, what went into the decision to split time on that last drive between Micah and John, as opposed to just sticking with your listed backup?
Yeah, it's two freshman quarterback, one true freshman, one redshirt freshman. It's getting them game experience, getting them into in a situation where they both get to play. I think if we just went with one, maybe the other doesn't get to see it, And so, it's just getting them the feel of college football. As you guys know, it's a lot different, and it's really mental. Everybody is talented. The guys are bigger, the stronger, the faster, as advertised. And so just to get them experience, so that they remember the feeling of going in, being in a situation like this, I thought it benefits and helps us.
Coach, getting another bye week this early in the year, do you think the approach is going to be any different from what it was before the Sam Houston game, or how do you think you and your staff is going to approach that?
Yeah, good question. I think looking back now at Sam Houston, the Sam Houston week, could we have done different? Probably, and really just, I think from our perspective, it's just tightening the screws. I don't know how much penalties we had. It seemed like a bunch. And then, after the first personal foul, to keep the drive going, it didn't. I know I didn't feel good, and so I have to, continue to harp on these guys. But in some cases, we have to be better. We just have to be better. I told them I take everything that we had at Sam Houston, but from now on, a standard is a standard, and we're going to hold guys accountable. And so that's the biggest piece to it. And so we got to be better than we entered in that last bye week with Sam Houston, going to Sam Houston.
Coach, season high 149 yards on the ground tonight. Obviously, the passing game was working, but what did you like on the ground from the three running backs that saw a lot of carries, all five of them averaging over 5 yards a touch?
Yeah, you have to establish the run. If there's run boxes in there, you've got to establish the run. And so I really loved how the offensive line gave those guys opportunities to run. And it's a deep running back room that is capable of running the ball, starting with Landon. And so you got to see Thailand back there. And that was a good showing in the Dave, and we had Christian Bond back there, so it was good. It was good to see him.
And that was UH football head coach Timmy Chang following their 36-7 win over Northern Iowa on Saturday. All right, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will continue our conversation recapping Saturday's big win for the Rainbow Warriors as they now head into yet another bye week before going on the road to open Mountain West play. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. This is Wake Up in the Den on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brechts, Michael Esquero. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network and streaming live every Monday like we are right now on our YouTube channel. And of course, you can, if you missed the live stream because you're driving around and you want to watch the antics or the craziness that happens in here or whatnot, you guys can always obviously watch it, the rest of the show, on our YouTube channel. And we definitely thank all of you guys that support us every morning. And you can also text in at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. And follow us on social media at High Sports Radio. All right, getting back to our recap of Saturday's game. We will also continue it in the second hour. And in the second hour, you will be able to hear the post-game from quarterback Braden Shager and also wide receiver Nick Senecal. Right in the previous segment, we heard from head coach Timmy Chang, and a lot of it, he gave a lot of credit to, as he should, the trenches. Like, the game was won, as we say, in the trenches, and they looked really well. Paul brought it up last week, and including in his write-ups, that the Northern Iowa line, they were humongous. They're bigger than Hawaii. They had size. We talk about Ty Edwards being a huge, almost like Derrick Henry, at least in terms of height, size type of running back, and Hawaii was able to slow all of that stuff down, stuff that we've never really seen before. I don't know how many times last week I mentioned, man, Hawaii just can't seem to figure out how to stop the run. And this time, they finally figured it out. So defensively, they did their thing, and then offensively, I want to go back to something that Michael had said, because that was also something I had in my notes, where it seems like when we talk about Braden Shager, as I mentioned last week, he's a good quarterback, but it seemed like it was just trying to jam a square peg into a round hole, because the offense he's not a run and shoot style quarterback by any means, but he's a really good quarterback, and you guys were able to really see that on Saturday. So now it's like they started to incorporate a different style of offense, a little bit of RPO and everything. So it was more, it could fit Braden and the talent that we have on this offense better. And I think that was the difference. They also played a little bit more up-tempo, something similar that we've seen from what worked against Hawaii and Sam Houston. They were just going with this offense. So all around, it made for a really fun game, and it was awesome to watch. And this is what we hope, when now everyone gets a chance to heal, and what we hope will happen when they go and get out on the road next week.
I think that this, it's hard, right? Because I don't want to overreact to just one performance. But it did feel like they figured a lot of things out, where it seemed like the thing that was just a hair off finally clicked. We've talked about needing a second receiver to step up. Nick Senecal with 9 catches. I believe that's a new career high. At least he had a career high in targets, and all of these things, right? He steps up. Pafele continues to be good. The running game has options. You mentioned the line. Outstanding job by the line. I'm glad, and I was glad when Timmy recognized them simply for what they did. And then one more thing about the game with penalties, where you brought it up in the first segment, where it wasn't that Hawaii didn't have any penalties, and it wasn't that they still didn't give up significant yards. I believe it was almost 75 yards of penalty yardage given up, but it was less of those backbreakers, right, where you had the momentum and then all of a sudden you start moving backwards on offense. Or you saw at the start of the game where one personal foul extends a drive and you give up a score. There were never the compound errors, it felt like, for Hawaii, and self-inflicted compound errors on top of that. That includes, by the way, not just penalties, tackling as well. This was by far, at least from my eyeballs, the best tackling game that the Hawaii defense had. They wrapped up. They didn't allow a tough ground game for UNI to continue churning after contact, and that was a big thing as well. They got off the field by not allowing extra yards after contact, and that's a massive thing on this defense.
Yeah, and I think in this game really came down to the opening series on both sides of the ball. You mentioned that first drive when looked like Northern Iowa was driving down on us. But, we talk about the defensive line and the trenches. And our defensive line were definitely doing their jobs in holding their blocks, or not holding the blocks, but like making the offensive line forced to defend them. And that allowed our linebackers to make plays. I think Paul mentioned Jalen Smith earlier, graded one of the highest performers on the defense. But then Jemai Otis also came in, and he didn't start, but when he came in, he had a stretch run of 2 plays that completely flipped momentum to our Hawai'i side, where I think it was 1st and 10, and they finally brought a blitz, and he beats the right guard, I believe, on a 1-on-1 situation to get a sack to make it 2nd and 16. And then the next play, when Seba Brown forces the fumble, he hawks it down there, trying to get the loose ball before it goes out of bounds, and is able to secure it with 1 foot in bounds. Because if that ball goes out of bounds, it still remains with you and I, but that gave a Hawaii momentum. And then on offense, I'm going to start with the running back, Landon Sims. And Paul, I think Landon read some of your articles last week calling Cam Barfield a gem, and saying that we need to get Cam Barfield as a player to watch. I think you wrote that he had 40 yards of scrimmage. Well, Landon Sims said to keep the water in your mouth, Paul, because he went to town, and I think he got 41 yards just from receiving. He had like over 76. He had 76 yards from scrimmage, and he was a difference. And I like what he did on his first carry, where he was able to bounce it outside, because teams have been defending us using a tight front. That's TITEs, if you want to Google that, where the linebackers would line up in the A gaps, and the defensive line would cover the B gaps. And the openings to attack that front is the outside run. And that was something that Hawaii was lacking, where we just kept trying to go inside, and the linebackers are able to give us fits. But Landon broke it outside for his first carry, and that really set the tone. But I want to circle back to number 1, and that's Jonah Panoke, because he honestly, to me, was the guy that set the tone from the very first snap. We talk about tempo with Braden, and we said in the previous weeks or in games past, where why are we playing so many receivers? And when you play that many receivers, you sub out and you cannot run tempo. But I swear Jonah did not get subbed out until maybe midway through the 3rd drive, when other receivers, he was in there constantly. And on the first snap, you and I was in a zone coverage, and nobody got open. There was a switch route. I mean, they were all kind of downfield, but Jonah Panoke was about 2 or 3 yards past the defender. He realizes, he sees Braden scrambling, so what he does is he comes back to the ball on the curl route. So he gets 5 yards of separation. So he traveled 8 yards to get open for Braden, to give Braden a target to throw to. And we saw how much that helps. We talk about drops and incompletions. That set the tone right there, and we see Braden reward Jonah later in that drive, when Jonah was a single to the top of the formation, and he, against cover 6 defense, he was able to get open for a touchdown. And that honestly, I love that from Braden, because we talk about needing a second receiver. I know we're going to hear from Nick Senecal, but Jonah really stepped up there in that opening drive, made himself available, got that trust with Braden, and we were rolling from there.
I'm glad you bring up Jonah, because he really does deserve flowers for what his performance was. It's been a slow start to the year for him, and for him, I'm sure it's been frustrating all throughout college, dealing with plenty of injuries and whatnot. So to get this type of success, I'm sure was really nice for him. I also think the team kind of rallied around it. You go look at how they celebrate after that touchdown, and there's an extra energy. You heard that, there's no joy this week in practice, right? There's a business-like atmosphere. You got that joy back a little bit, and that's the time to show off that joy. Jonah did a really nice job in what you mentioned. Seemed like more snaps, a little bit less rotation from these wide receivers, which allows a rhythm to be formed on offense. It allows Braden to start to go back to the well a few different times. And it's not to say that Hawaii needed to completely tighten up the rotation where it's 4 receivers playing and that's it. But it does allow guys like Jonah to get into a rhythm, to start to feel good when he's out on the field again. It allows a Nick Senecal to look a little bit better. It allows the offense to get that chemistry going once again. And we saw that. We talked about it last week. We've talked about it here today. It really was important for Hawaii, and I'm building off Michael's point, to get off to the start that they did against a UNI team that typically wants to play from in front. I brought it up with their running attack that they want to control possession. They want to control the clock. They want to control how long your defense is out there on the field. And Hawaii never let them dictate the game. Hawaii brought the game to them. And that is a massive difference from what we have seen from this team all season.
And hopefully they can maintain that type of confidence and stability on both sides of the ball heading into their first game of the conference slate, going over and playing at San Diego State in a couple of weeks. So they do have a bye week this week. When we take a look back at San Diego State and how they fared, they were not in action this weekend, but have started off, they played some quality opponents. They got a big win to open up the season versus Texas A&M Commerce, 45-14, but then lost to Oregon State 21-0 and lost to Cal 31-10, and now they play Central Michigan this weekend. So not entirely sure what to expect from this San Diego State squad yet. Obviously, we'll have your more extensive preview once we hit game week next week. But taking a look around the Mountain West and what did happen over the weekend, probably the craziest game that I was not expecting to happen goes back to last week, Friday, in which San Jose State and Washington State went to double overtime. Washington State just barely beating the Spartans 54-52. So, I mean,
what a game.
100 plus points scored in that entire game. Like it was just entirely back and forth throughout the whole time. It was at Washington State. The Cougars remain undefeated and San Jose State falling to 3-1. But as we've been saying, this offense from San Jose State has been really impressive so far under the helm of Coach Craig Stutzman. And to Washington State's credit, I mean, they were battling as well. So this will be still interesting in terms of where the Spartans end up to finish out the year. I'm sure they shoulda, coulda, woulda would want to get that win over Washington State. But what are you going to do? Moving forward, not entirely too much action that happened around the time. Maybe more importantly, in the AP Top 25 poll that just was, or the new one for this week. I mentioned it earlier, but Boise State is now ranked in the top 25. They're sneaking in there at 25 and are ranked for the first time in the AP poll since 2020. And it's going to be a shame when we upset them when they come here. We are jumping back on that perspective again. So Mountain West slate is going to get ready to start now, and we'll see where everything ends up. But it is going to be quite the schedule. We brought it up before with Hawaii and everything they have to do, but one opponent at a time. First things first, take care of the health, go into the bye week, get healthy once again, and hopefully we will see Braden Shager take these next 2 weeks to get healthy. He got a little banged up on Saturday's game, and then we want to continue to see him have that bounce in his step that he had, have that movement, continue to remain tough. That's never been a question, but it's more on if that ankle is healthy, that leads to how well you throw, how well you can move around. So we need the healthy Braden Shager to come out against San Diego State. But for now, they just need to get healthy. I do think it was fun, though, to see Micah Alihado and John Keave Sangopolutele get in on the action. Coach Timmy Chang said in the post-game press conference that, this was just about getting them in the game. This was the game that they would be allowed to get in there. Obviously, the game was in the bag by then. But there's a difference between practicing against each other and then actually being physically in a real game. We've seen John Keave get in there a couple of times, but for Micah Alihado, and they're just exchanging like snap by snap. It was kind of like fun to see them like just trade out, but it was good to get Micah in there. I'm assuming, barring anything crazy that happens, hopefully nothing crazy happens. So like Micah will be able to play in at least 4 games, hopefully, and then you still preserve his red shirt on that note. And we know John Keave Sangopolutele is listed as the official number 2 guy in the quarterback room, but it was nice to see them kind of get in there, work in a little bit of reps. You had like Micah actually complete a pass. I was like, hey,
I was gonna say, they
there
let
you
Micah
go with
actually
the
throw
lefty.
it.
I know. I was like, all right, let's go. So it's like just a pass for 5 yards, but like getting that type of game experience helps in the development of these young quarterbacks, especially when there's no pressure that if like passing, there was no pressure where, hey, if it was intercepted or something, it's
no
okay.
big deal.
The game's in the bag. We're cool. We're chilling. So for them to get in and get those reps in, it was awesome to see. And shout out to Timmy Chang for letting them work like in there for a little bit.
Yeah, they finally were able to do what I'm sure they've wanted to do at least a little bit during this non-conference schedule, and was working the young guys, because Braden Shager's not going to be here forever. And for some fans, I know that's super exciting, and for others, there are some worries about where the program goes after this, right? Where you have Micah, who is incredibly talented, but also a true freshman, and then you have John, who hasn't or hadn't really taken any real game snaps. So this is, like you said, a safe opportunity for the two freshman quarterbacks to go in. And I saw some worry from fans about perhaps disaster striking later in the season, and looking back at this game, and one series for Micah might end up burning his red shirt because he's forced to play down the line. I don't think that's the case, guys. I really do think if it comes down to that, one, chaos, because that means both Braden Shager and John Keave Songapole have been injured and are out for the season. Two, this is what good teams do to develop their players. You get the young guys reps in the games, because you're right, it's not practice. When the bullets are flying in game, it is completely different when there's 10,000 plus fans screaming at you, having fun, whatever. It's different than when you're just having the music play at practice.
Or when you're Micah and you have to look at a defensive line that's like humongous.
That's 6'4" plus all in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about the red shirt year, because there's because we're gonna recruit quarterbacks, right? We got JJ Nielsen committed for the next class, and
He's gonna be fun.
when Hawaii starts putting up more points and lighting it up, we're gonna have some quarterbacks that want to come here. So I'm not too worried about that red shirt year.
I go back to, remember when we had Craig Angelis in studio, and Craig Angelis totally like caught Paul because he was like, when we have other top quarterbacks that come and play here, and then Craig was the one that was like, what do you mean we're gonna recruit the top quarterbacks from Hawaii? I was like,
I hope so.
Good catch, Craig.
Shout out Craig. Craig, you need a new Aloha shirt though.
I don't know what that
We'll
means.
get him.
He wore the same Aloha shirt in this game that he wore at Sam Houston. Check the tape.
We got to get him a HSRN Aloha
we got to
shirt.
get him more Kahala shirts. Tom Park, get Craig some Kahala shirts. All right, we'll be back to close out hour number 1, but we will have hour number 2 coming up here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. I want to close out hour number one, at least giving everyone updates about the Rainbow Wahine sports that happened, obviously, over the weekend as well. We'll start off with Rainbow Wahine volleyball. Tough road trip for the ladies. I believe it's like a 10-day road trip and just a few games. They had that game last week against UNLV in which they dropped the 5-setter, and then played Texas and Baylor over the weekend, and were able to just take one set apiece from Texas and Baylor, but both nationally ranked squads. I know we harped a lot about SMU, that Hawaii beat SMU, and SMU were able to beat some of these teams, but it's still a young team. We want to go back to that. All hope is not lost as they'll get back or get ready to come back and open up the Big West Conference this Friday against UC Irvine, which, by the way, the game promo for UC Irvine is pretty cool because it's part of the Mixed Plate Series, and it's Olelo Hawai'i, so that'll be really neat. They'll have some Hawaiian that'll go on throughout the night. I hope you guys can go out there, but no, it was still good to see. It was a good experience nonetheless for this young squad playing against that type of size and that type of power that they'll experience with Texas and Baylor, and almost like the perfect scenario of experience before they head into the conference slate, because not only do you play against these teams, but also they were in a lot of these games, and the 5-setters went Hawaii's way here at home. So you never want to say a loss is a moral victory or a good loss, but just having that experience against the top teams, and like what we see, we go back to women's basketball, right? Like you load up your non-con so that you can go up against this higher level competition and almost like just experience not only the level of talent, but also just that feeling of, oh man, we were only able to win one set against these top teams. Like then you start to really think about all the things that you could have done better and how close certain sets could have been, because they were competitive in the rest of the sets, right?
Absolutely.
Like they were really competitive. So I think it was a perfect road trip for them to have prior to coming home this weekend and opening up their Big West Conference slate. So even though they didn't have the most successful road trip on paper, as they lost all 3 games, the experience was still there, and I think that's the main takeaway for this team. Again, I make the exact comparison that we always talk about with Rainbow Wahine basketball and how they come back, and then the conference is like a breeze.
I think that's a fair way to go about it and put it, where it is similar to the Rainbow Wahine basketball team, that you over prepare yourself for the regular season or for the conference season. And it's not to say that you're okay with losses. I don't think they go in thinking, oh, we're playing Texas, we're going to lose today. But it is going in with an understanding that this is a little bit different level of volleyball than you might play against other schools. And like you mentioned, the power, the speed, etc. To get that experience at this point in the season and I know we keep saying it, and I keep saying it, for such a young team, it is incredibly important. They got it at home, and now they've got it on the road. Both of those are things they can put in the mental bank for later down the line when they're competing for a Big West championship, when they're competing for the NCAA tournament, so on and so forth. So great job in the non-conference season. Tough end to it, but at the end of the day, make sure you learn lessons from losses. Don't, dwell on losses.
Yeah,
and I think they also needed the experience of playing on the road because they played a very long home stretch at the stand. And, we talk about Hawaii football, right? They're just a different team on the road and at home. And I think a lot of these 5-setters at the stand, they had riding the flow of the home crowd. So good for them.
Yeah. All right. We got to step aside for a quick top-of-the-hour break, but we'll be back to continue our conversation about football and a bunch of other stuff. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Did you
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. Alongside Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani with our rock band over here. Michael got a little too excited and might have hurt himself over here.
Yeah, my hamstrings are already hurting from pickleball last night, so you'll notice I couldn't be jumping up and down with the young kids.
Well, I was jumping because my team got a dub. I don't know about you, Ku. Why were you jumping?
He got all excited because I was like, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to start then talk some NFL to start off hour number 2. We'll get into more Hawaii football conversation coming up in the next segment, and we will let you hear postgame from quarterback Braden Shager and wide receiver Nick Senecal. But yes, I want to start off with some NFL because it was another interesting time. We talked about this last week where the part of the fun with the NFL is that you really don't know what to expect from week to week. And it was yet another week that we didn't really know what to expect. And here we are. And I'm jumping up and down because Caleb Williams at least seems to improve week to week, so that's a big plus.
He broke Justin Fields' single game passing yard record.
See, and he got his first touchdown pass, albeit it was to Romo Dunze, who got his first touchdown reception. So we kind of joked. They joked about it on the broadcast. I joked about it on social media. I'm like, well, who gets the game ball or who gets that ball? Because obviously for these young players, you always want to keep your first, but it rarely ever happens where it's like the first touchdown pass and the first touchdown reception of their rookie career. And so they kind of did a little joust like back and forth. Romo Dunze was like, here, you want the ball, Caleb? Just kidding. Like, I'm keeping the ball. But in all seriousness, it'll be kind of funny, like, who gets to keep the
I'm
ball.
sure they'll ask. I'm sure it'll be asked a few more times. Be like, so who did end up keeping the ball?
Hey, I'd be the one that, like, you know what? I'm the last one that has it. So if I'm Rome, I'm like, I'm the last one that has it.
Yeah,
so I get
it.
to keep the football.
I don't know where
so
it
there
went.
You go.
Sorry, Caleb.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, we're just gonna lose it. But nonetheless,
Equipment guy lost.
Nonetheless, yeah, the Bears did end up falling to the Indianapolis Colts. Sad face, but you know what? Like I said, they were able to move the football. Caleb Williams improves every single game, and that's all we can hope for because I still go back to the concept. And actually, former NFL quarterback Alex Smith mentioned it, I think, on NFL Network or one of the broadcasts, where he's a firm believer at you can't put a lot of pressure on these young quarterbacks that you throw in right away in their rookie season. Like,
He's a good one to know.
It's ideal. Yeah, he had one of the best quarterbacks that we will ever see in Patrick Mahomes sit behind him in Kansas City.
He also experienced being the first overall pick and not necessarily having the foundation under him to start things out. He's somebody I'd listen to about these things.
So it's awesome to see. But at the same time, when I look at what happened around the league, and you look at the Minnesota freaking Vikings, like what in the world is going on over there?
They can never make me hate you, Sam. They can never make me hate you.
The Vikings beating the Houston Texans, a team you guys heard me be very high on and what the potential that they will have. But now all of a sudden, the Minnesota Vikings are a player not only in the NFC North, but just in the NFC itself, where they've kind of been the shocked. And I want to give a lot of credit. Yes, Sam Darnold is there, and he's a very solid quarterback. But their defense has also been lights out. I mean, there you go. Holding C.J. Stroud, who gets a lot of praise, as he should. Did that offense just 7 points. And then their offense, in turn, puts up 34 points on the Houston Texans, who also have a solid defense. So it is interesting to see. It does break my heart a little bit that, the Bears are likely the only team that will not be in the talks or runnings. At least right now, things can change down the stretch. We're still very much in the beginning of the NFL. But looking at a team where I thought, the Bears are going to be at the top with the Lions. And then, of course, you just got to give the Packers some credit. Now Jordan Love's a little injured. But then the Vikings, I think, collectively, a lot of people thought, they'll be the worst in the division by far. And now all of a sudden, they seem like the best team in the division. So that's the beauty and the fun of the NFL, is that you don't really know what to expect because everyone is the best in the world. And sometimes it comes down to coaching and, of course, scheme. Like we look at San Francisco, right? It's like they keep, even though I know Michael will go on in that, but he's just waiting to go on his fun rant.
Is the NFC North just simply put, the best division in football.
I think overall,
Like,
yeah.
just straight up top to bottom, the 4 teams where you bring up the Lions, who obviously everybody's like Super Bowl contenders, blah, 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 blah. They end up winning this past weekend as well. You look at the Packers, who, in the absence of Jordan Love, have won 2 games straight. That's exactly what you want, and honestly, more than you can really ask for from your backup quarterback. And then you mentioned the Vikings, who are just incredible right now. I mean, I wasn't scared of them before. Like, before I was thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, Jets 4-1 entering week 6 against the Bills. Now that London game is interesting because you're curious about, do the Vikings just continue this going forward? Sam Darnold is one of like 5 quarterbacks to throw for 8 touchdowns with a new team in his first season with a new team in the first 3 games. 2 of the other quarterbacks, 2 Rams, 2 quarterbacks close to Michael's heart, Kurt Warner and Matthew Stafford. So Sam Darnold in that air to start the season. And obviously the question is always if it can continue, but all of that. And then the Bears, I still don't believe are fully out of it. Their defense is clearly a pretty good unit, and Caleb Williams is going to continue figuring out. We're seeing him continue to figure it out. I think that it might be the best division in football, and I think Michael's division has an argument against it, and I think that might be why he's waiting for his saying.
I love this take because when we had our way too early playoff predictions, Paul, I had 3 NFC North teams in my 7.
This is true.
Yeah, I mean,
one of them was the Bears, though, and that's not looking too great.
No.
So.
Again, still early.
But the Vikings, they're sneaking up there, and like you said, coaching matters, right? And Kevin O'Connell,
he deserves his flowers.
He deserves his flowers. I think Kyle Shanahan also deserves some flowers for the Sam Darnold reclamation project.
I don't blame you for thinking that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, so they are really looking good. The Texans, though, they were kind of going to go back to what Koo was saying, but they were kind of treading on thin water with that win against the Colts and the win against the Bears.
Ooh, I like it. Say it.
They got a little too much love in the offseason.
Say the word. They're overrated.
Yeah, they needed to be knocked down a tad a bit, right? But yeah, there's a lot of big things going on.
Yeah.
I think Seahawks too are 3-0. Paul's favorite quarterback, Geno Smith.
Well, also one of the other surprising things from the weekend as well was the Carolina Panthers beating the Las Vegas Raiders. Here we go, Andy Dalton. We talk about, I think I texted in our group,
the red rifle, baby.
The old quarterbacks and having all this resurgence of career. I mean, shout out Andy Dalton. Maybe he should have stayed in Chicago and things could have been a little bit different. But he takes over. Bryce Young gets benched. Andy Dalton goes in. And look, all of a sudden, the Carolina Panthers have an offense beating the Las Vegas Raiders 36-22. So it's not just even like a close loss. It was a convincing win by the Carolina Panthers. And Andy Dalton able to make that offense work. And unfortunately, it seems like Bryce Young's career in the NFL is albeit but over at this point, considering that Andy Dalton was able to come in and do what he did. Yes, the Raiders aren't exactly, you're not playing a top defense like the Chicago Bears or anything, but it's still a quality team. And yeah, Andy Dalton, I mean, or he should have stayed in Dallas because that's another thing.
Or New Orleans.
I mean, he played in the AFC North to start his career, so that when you talk about one of the top defenses or top divisions, that's easy for him. But the Raiders, I think the Raiders coach said there was a lot of players making business decisions in that game, so we're gonna make business decisions with our personnel. I thought it was a banger quote.
Bring him, Devontae. Welcome home. Welcome home. New Jersey is calling. New York is calling. Devontae, come home. 8 misses you. Make that business decision. You can have a 3rd-round pick.
All right, we will let Michael kind of almost like wrap up, quote unquote, our NFL discussion, at least for this segment, because we want to get back to University of Hawaii football in the next segment. But I mean, I feel like we should have like kept texting Michael and stuff. And you guys, Michael is by all accounts just like the rest of us, like obviously we're professionals that cover sports, But the reason we love what we do is because we are naturally sports fans, and Michael was going through it yesterday with the Rams and Niners game, considering that the Rams had to come from behind, and it was just all the superstition
The
thing.
walking
But you know what?
wounded
He was good. I must give him credit. He was good. He did not look at the score during church. So good job, Michael, that you did not take a bathroom break or anything to peep the score. But after that, after church was done, Michael kind of went through it when it came to these superstitions, and he's texting us like, "I'm in my car. I can't leave. Oh no, it's going further. Now I gotta watch it." And it was all kinds of craziness for Michael.
Yes, legacy game for Sean McVay and the Rams. You know, I was driving to church for 11:15 service, and the score was 14-0 when I got to church. When I got out of church, it was 21-14, and it's like, oh, we have some life. But then the 49ers grew up by 10, and we score on 3 consecutive drives. So that was a very great game. Bang, bang, escalator gang. That was, I believe, the Rams' first regular season win over the Niners in SoFi Stadium. Regular season win, because we did beat them in the NFC Championship. But there was a lot of sea of red in there.
Oh, yeah. It was a 49ers game.
That, you know, those red shirts, you know, they got to go down the escalator. Bang, bang, escalator gang. But the Rams, yeah, you know, Matthew Stafford, he did his Iron Man impersonation, or whatever the correct word is, and you know he did the dang thing with, you know, essentially a box of scraps, you know, in the cave with our receivers and all that. But you know, shout out all the players that made plays in the game. But yeah, the Rams, we needed that. If they lost, the season would have been over. But now we have a big game against the Baby Bears this Sunday.
We're going to shock the world.
I really was happy for you, Michael, because, one, watching that game, all I could think about were the 49ers fans who were so excited to chirp a Jets fan while I was there during week 1. Had to remind them that we ended up with the same amount of Super Bowl wins last year. So that I'm thinking about my friends from the 49ers game who deserved that loss. Not necessarily the ones who were very kind on the train. I hope they had something to do yesterday and ended up having to miss the end of that game. But for Michael, I think you're spot on. That is a season-changing win for the Rams, where I joked they're the walking wounded. They're the walking...
And both teams were.
You know, the dead Rams coming back to life, the zombie Rams coming back to life without their 2 top receivers. You said Sean McVay legacy game. Yeah. I mean, to go against the guy, because it's all the Shanahan tree, right? McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, all of them. To go head-to-head and win that, and I know both teams were depleted, but to win it with the depletion that the Rams, and specifically the Rams offense, has had to begin this year is otherworldly, because they're gonna get some of those guys back. And when they do, oh boy, look out. Maybe those Rams maybe they might end up towards the top of that NFC West.
Yeah, and a lot of the odds makers not exactly budging on what we saw that happen the last couple of weeks. The Chiefs, no surprise, though, still at the top and the favorite to win the Super Bowl at plus 425. The Niners are still up there at plus 650, plus 350 to win the NFC. And the Vikings still all the way down at 12-1 to win the NFC, actually behind the Dallas Cowboys, in fact, who are at 11-1, and the Packers are at 9-1. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm in Las Vegas, this is where I go a little Salt Bay sprinkle on the Vikings to win the NFC, because they're looking solid so far, and the Niners at that plus 350, considering that they seem like they were not going to be able to stay healthy as the season goes along. I'm surprised we haven't seen a shift, but at the same time, I guess there's nothing significant. Obviously, a lot of these teams haven't even got into their divisional games yet, but it's curious and it's fun to see how much the line starts to move. I mean, the Texans are still 13-1 to win the Super Bowl and 7-1 to win the AFC. So second shortest odds to win the AFC behind the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll see. Now, all of a sudden, the NFC is looking like the really the stronger side versus the AFC. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll get back to some UH football. But actually, breaking news that I just saw come through the ESPN app is that sources the Mountain West making push to keep remaining schools, and they're attempting to execute a plan to keep its 8 remaining schools, and is amid to offer guaranteed money to the schools, including one-time payments to formalize their status as league members going forward. Those include large payments to both UNLV and Air Force to stay in the league, and also significant payments to all the other remaining members. Not sure exactly how that shakes up for Hawaii, since they're only a member by football, but we'll see how it plays out.
There will also be a little more breaking news as well regarding Gonzaga and a decision with them, and some schools who were considering the Pac-12 and what their decision ends up being, because looks like that just came down the pipeline as well. So all that coming up on Wake Up in the Den. Don't want to go anywhere.
It's starting to get juicy. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll get to that breaking news, actually, and then a little later in the show, we will let you hear from UH quarterback Braden Shager and wide receiver Nick Senecal. But when we come back, we will get into this breaking news that are just coming down the pipe. So we'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brackton, Michael Lescaro. All right, this is fun. This is the fun part about being on sports radio, and I'm kind of glad now, especially that we go till 10 a.m. because I did feel like a lot of times when we had just the 1 hour show that went to 9, a lot of the breaking news would happen
as the show finished,
right when we're pow. So now we finally kind of get our first, at least I feel like on YouTube, our first breaking news scenario that at least, I mean, there's breaking news all the time, but breaking news that we need to tell you guys about that deals directly with Hawaii schools in general, of course. So we mentioned before we went to the break, this is via Pete Thamel of ESPN, that sources a Mountain West making push to keep remaining schools. So obviously there's been the conference realignment. We have the departure of the quote unquote state schools that are going over to the revamped Pac-12. And now, of course, the Mountain West needs to make sure that they at least have their 8 members, particularly for football, to remain there or to keep their FBS status, and hopefully add more tantalizing schools to be able to pitch and generate more revenue from their media rights deals. So sources told ESPN that the Mountain West is amid a significant push to solidify its future by offering guaranteed money to the schools that are in the Mountain West, including one-time payments to formalize their status as league members going forward. Those include large payments to both UNLV and Air Force, who the rumor mill has speculated that they would be invited to the Pac-12. I know I said a lot of stuff about UNLV being left out, considering that their football team is on the way up. And just in general, like the city of just sports and entertainment now, and how much Las Vegas has made that push towards sports, it would be weird to leave them out of something. But the rumors were that they would have been around for the second invite to the Pac-12. And now that seems like the Mountain West is going to make that push. So part of the Mountain West pitch is that they'd guarantee no schools take a step back in media distribution, which is an example of guaranteed money compared to the projected money that the Pac-12 has presented to some schools. Obviously, the other remaining Mountain West schools, along with UNLV and Air Force, and of course Hawaii, are Utah State, New Mexico, Nevada, San Jose State, and Wyoming. The league would then potentially add schools of that core of 8. And the decision to stay in the Mountain West would also allow the schools to avoid the exit fees. The Mountain West is slated to bring in more than $120 million in additional revenue because of the departures of Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State. So right now, the Mountain West schools are making nearly $6 million annually in overall payouts, and nearly $4 million of that is from pure media value. But right now, that is separate from Hawaii. They make a different deal because of Spectrum, but it does bring their total to around the same type of payout as the other Mountain West schools. And there's uncertainty in what the Pac-12 will be earning when the conference is reformed in 2026, as it currently only has the 6 members, and the league hasn't technically taken their product to market. So they need to get the 8 to be recognized as an official conference. And then from there, depending on who they add, it'll determine how much their media rights are valued at. Now, it would be interesting to see what happens with Boise, because as Boise is right now with the Mountain West, they have their own media rights deal that pays them a little bit more than what the other schools do. So I'm curious to see what that negotiation looked like with the Pac-12. But we'll see. So we'll stand by and wait and see what happens with Hawaii. I will also reiterate the fact that I've been saying, and we've starting to see it catch a little more traction. And shout out to our friends at the Circa Resort and Casino who had the Northern Iowa game as your Hawaii test last night in Las Vegas. So they had it on every single TV in their massive sports book, and it was awesome to see. And I will always continue that, whether it be the Mountain West or the Pac-12 or Hawaii going independent, but the true value of Hawaii football and the time zone is starting to really, really show itself. And I'm glad, especially in the year of social media too. I mean, we had the Sickos Committee, who has like 30,000+ followers, tweeting all about Hawaii football on Saturday night. And that's, yeah, there's the sports betting thing, but the fact that Hawaii is the only game on with all of these eyeballs, that's the value when we talk about like exclusive rights, right? It's the exclusive game that is on before you head into your NFL Sunday especially. So the value is showing itself now more than ever for Hawaii, and hopefully they're able to get a good deal coming out of this, with everyone tugging and pulling about media rights. And I'm leaving it to you, some of these bigger distributors. Let's get some of these like big TV deals. I mean, we love our friends at Spectrum, but maybe if they take the Spectrum broadcast and like broadcast it on a bigger scale, then we'll see even Hawaii be reaching more homes, and it'll be interesting to see. But Paul, for now, what is the other breaking news as it comes to conference realignment?
So a couple of pieces of information. Will continue with schools, or at least conferences, trying to keep schools from being poached from by the Pac-12, I suppose. The American Athletic Conference, or the AAC, not the ACC, for those who might be confused, did come out with a statement earlier today. We are the American Athletic Conference, and with 4 schools converging together for this statement, Memphis, USF, UTSA, and Tulane all came out and said in a statement, quote, we are the American Athletic Conference, a conference that prioritizes student-athlete welfare, has proud academic institutions, produces fierce competition at the highest level, and has outstanding linear and direct-to-consumer national media partners. Together, we are committed to continuing to build the American brand, exploring new opportunities for exposure and value, and developing innovative economic resources, all in service of our student athletes. While we acknowledge receiving interest in our institutions from other conferences, we firmly believe that it is in our individual and collective best interests to uphold our commitment to each other. Together, we will continue to modernize the conference, elevate the student-athlete experience, achieve championship-winning success, and build the future. So, nice job, one, by the AAC to parry off the attacks from the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 has been pretty aggressive, it seems, in going after a lot of these colleges that they want. All four of those schools were heavily linked to the Pac-12 and being like high on the desire list, we'll say, for the new conference. And now it looks as though they are not leaving the AAC. The Pac-12 going to have to go in a different direction, in which they actually already did. They got the commitment of Gonzaga, who does not have a football program, to join the league. Obviously, that leaves them still needing to add 2 more programs for specifically football. But Gonzaga, per Brett McMurphy, is going to join the Pac-12 as the rebuilding conference reportedly added Gonzaga to its ranks as a basketball school, according to Brett McMurphy of the Action Network. The Bulldogs will receive a full conference revenue share despite not participating in football. And like I just said, the Pac-12 needs 2 more football schools to join Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, and San Diego State. Clearly, Gonzaga doesn't fit because they don't have state at the end, so they couldn't play football anyway. So the conference has until 2026 to have those members. But continuing to grow, continuing to build or rebuild the Pac-12 in a new form, as some news on both good and bad, I suppose, for fans of the Pac-12.
Yeah, and for some people that may be, for some people that may be wondering why, or kind of shocked, like, but there is only basketball, no football, because we talk about conference realignment being football, which is for the most part true, but Gonzaga proving that they're solid, especially a men's basketball program, because that way the revenue split, actually, it's almost like Gonzaga makes good on the investment from the Pac-12, because they make it to the tournament every single year, and when you make it to and they make it far. So we've talked about this before, and when you make it to the NCAA basketball tournament, men's and women's, you get a share and revenue distribution from that, and the further you go, the more money you get, and that money goes to the conference and not the school. So for the Pac-12, I mean, it makes all that sense where they are going to make good without having football, because they're betting on the fact that Gonzaga will continue the basketball success and make it far in the tournament as they do every year. So you essentially get that money back as in the conference and not necessarily from a football standpoint. So it's interesting to see. It'll be kind of funny if like Mark Few just decides to retire or something like right before.
He did just announce who's going to follow him up, so I guess they have that plan in place.
So we'll see how that goes.
I hate to rebuff the Gonzaga talk, but per Chris Vanini about 4 minutes ago, while the Pac-12 and Gonzaga have had discussions, there is no agreement or announcement imminent, the Athletic has learned. So, and that's
going back and forth.
Yeah, and that's the thing, going back to Pac-12 trying to poach the schools with and the AAC, is that right now the Pac-12, they're dealing with hypotheticals right now. All the money that they're saying that they're trying to put in these conversations, they're not a done deal. And you know, if anyone that has ever,
except for the state schools,
yeah, but like, you know, these monies, it's not a for sure thing. And right now the Pac-12, they don't have any cards. They only have 2 cards. That's the cards that they're dealt with, which is Washington State and Oregon State. Sure, they're getting these 4 new schools, but you still need to get more to be a conference. And these other conferences, like, hey, we have the power, we have the stuff, and let's fight back. And you know, we don't have to just think about football only. We have to think about our other sports. So I love what's going on here. It's a lot of drama and a lot of tea and a lot of reporting and counter reporting, and I think that's great. You know, we here at Hawai'i Sport, at something called Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, you know, we like to get fact checked, so we just wanted to fact check that and get rebuffed that.
To be fair, the Mountain West thought they were in control, and then the Pac-12 snatched 4 of their schools, so you always got to tread lightly. Other breaking news that just came down the pipe as it deals with Pac-12 is that former USC running back and 2005 Heisman Trophy winner Reggie Bush has filed a lawsuit against USC and the Pac-12 over NIL compensation. So when you have stuff with the Pac-12 and they're already needing to pay the Mountain West over $120 million in exit fees for those 4 schools, and you're going to get sued by Reggie Bush, and then you're still trying to get all of these other schools. So, you know what? Mountain West, baby. UNLV, don't leave us, because we need to keep our UNLV Hawaii games. Like, instead of UNLV and Nevada Reno being the tie together, it should always be UNLV and Hawaii, and they always need to be in the same conference, because, I mean, when are the other times that they're going to get as much of a good crowd that they get when they play Hawaii in Vegas? So that's all I'm going to say. So we need to keep UNLV and Hawaii together, no matter what happens, wherever any of the schools go. As long as we keep those 2 schools together, then at the end of the day, I'll be happy as a Hawaii football fan, because we need to keep our home and away every single game, every single year going with the Rebels, because Hawaii's right on their tail, and we're going to be just as good as you, UNLV. All right, going to take a break, and we'll get back to our University of Hawaii football discussion and keep you updated if there ends up being more breaking news here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Escaro. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live every Monday like we are right now on our YouTube channel. So mahalo for all of you guys that watch, and be sure to like and subscribe. All right, this has been a fun morning. I mean, not only talking about UH football, but I love when breaking news happens as like the show is going on, and that's more awesomeness on why we go to 10, because it felt like all the breaking news would happen right after we end our 1 hour show that would go to 9 o'clock. So we'll definitely follow that story throughout the week, and that being the new conference realignment. For just anyone that might have missed it in the previous segment, the Mountain West is set to offer guaranteed money for the remaining schools to stay and not even entertain going over to the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 still trying to get more schools, including potentially getting Gonzaga, with a school that does not have football, but getting them as a basketball only school. So all of that stuff, but we'll follow the story throughout the week as more comes out. But we will go back to our University of Hawaii football discussion, in that Hawaii coming off of that big win on Saturday, 36-7 over Northern Iowa. Before we get entirely back into it, though, wanting to let you hear from what a couple of players had to say following the game in the post-game media availability. So let's start off first with quarterback Braden Shager.
Hey, Braden, congratulations on the win. What were you feeling out there to start the game out? You go 12 for 12 to begin the game, and it looks just kind of like you were really comfortable back there. How were you feeling as this one started?
Yeah, no, I felt really good. I thought the O-line played really well and, gave me a clean pocket and makes my life a lot easier whenever they do that. So I think that it starts with them and then, receivers running the right route, getting it open and making me look good. So, I think we all just kind of treated it like it was a practice and just went out there and just played football. So, at the end of the day, I'm just, thankful that we were able to, start fast finally and, give all the glory to God for that.
And then you also had a running game going in front of you tonight, 149 yards, a season high. How much easier does that make your job operating the offense when it kind of has to keep the defense a little more honest?
Yeah, as a quarterback, when you can be two-dimensional, it really helps a lot. It opens things up in the back end. It makes them have to, worry about a run game, which is really nice that we were able to get that going. And, I just hope that we can continue to carry that on. And, like I said, it starts with the O-line. And if they continue to play the way that they did, then it's gonna be fun to watch.
Hey, Braden, was there a pregame vibe or feeling or anything along those lines that maybe you could felt was distinct from the 3 previous games this season?
Yeah, no, I think we always knew that we had a good offseason dating back to the summer. In 7-on-7, we were continuing to have good offense, and we carried it into fall camp, and I thought we had a good offseason, and we always had faith. And those first 3 games didn't really go like we wanted as an offense, and I just continued to tell the guys along with the coaches that we are a good offense, and we were just finally able to get it rolling tonight, and I just hope we can build upon this momentum.
Hey, Braden, I know you threw to 9 different receivers today. Was that kind of something you wanted to, focus on today, is like spreading the ball, the depth that you have in the receiver room?
Yeah, no, we got a lot of guys that can play. I think that, we got really like 12, 15 guys that could all play, and, it's good to get the ball spread around to everybody, but, I think that's just the way this offense works. When we get rolling, everybody's going to get a touch of the ball, so it's good to have that, and, it's great to have the depth we have at receiver.
Braden, kind of looking forward now, you guys have another bye week this early into the season before you guys start Mountain West play. Talk about being able to utilize that, having kind of the luxury of having another bye.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really happy that it was scheduled that way, and it'll be good for me personally just to, rest my ankle and hopefully get it healed up, ready to go for San Diego State. So I just got to stay off of it and, probably take a week off and then hopefully be ready to go.
Hey, Brandon. How are you feeling after these 4 non-conference games, you personally and where the team is at heading into conference play?
I think, like I said, the first 3 games didn't go exactly how we wanted to from an offensive standpoint, and I think we finally started to get it rolling tonight. But even then, I think that I think I could have thrown for 6 touchdowns if I didn't throw those 2 picks at the end of the half. So there's always going to be something to work on. But I'm happy that the direction it's headed, and it's good to get a big win like this headed into a bye week.
And that was University of Hawaii quarterback Braden Shager following their win over Northern Iowa on Saturday. Now here is wide receiver Nick Senecal.
And Nick, nice game tonight. Can you describe the connection between not just yourself and Braden, but the receivers as a whole?
It's very good. We all connected throughout this whole week. The execution, everything was just amazing. We're communicating more, and that's a huge part of the running shoe. So it was just the connection's just there. It's just everything clicked tonight. So it was nice. It's cool.
And a quick follow to that: did you guys practice anything differently throughout the week, or as far as something that might have separated what happened tonight versus the first 3 games?
We just really stress execution, just execute your play, you do your job, and just communicate all as one. Help the guy beside you, and like I said, communication is very big in running shoes. So we're just everybody was helping each other and everything. We just clicked, and like see again today, it showed on the field. So it was nice.
Nick, just kind of talk about, obviously just the early struggles with the offense, these in the early goings of the non-con, to finally put on a performance like this tonight. How much does that kind of maybe solidify in your guys' head that, this is the direction that you guys want to go in and to stick to it throughout the rest of the season?
And we just got to continue doing what we did at practice this past week, keep our keep our head modest in a way and just like just keep executing at a high level as we did, and everything's gonna fall in place.
Congrats on the win tonight. Career night for you, 2 touchdowns, 9 receptions. How do you feel that your development has come along as part of this program and in this offense specifically?
Great. My development, man. When I first came here, tell Braden, he tried to throw me the ball and I just couldn't catch it at all. So it was funny, you know. I wasn't used to the guy slinging it like that. But man, they believed in me. Every day, like after practice, you know, JU would like just give me like little pointers here and stuff like that. So man, it just all paid out. All that stuff, all that hard work just paid out, and I'm just happy for it, you know, to execute as a team and all that stuff. So yeah.
And follow up a little bit, how important was it for you guys as a whole to kind of see this offense click on all cylinders before you entered conference play, and specifically too with a bye week in front of it as well?
Like Braden said, honestly, like before, like this all the spring, fall camp, we're all just clicking at a high level, you know, offense executing, stuff like that. So having to see like all that work pay out in this game was huge. You know, we just had to see it click and stuff like that, and we know we could do it. So we just had to stay on this. We had to stay with the momentum and everything. So, yeah.
Hey Nick, congrats on your performance tonight. How do you plan on building on this? I mean, it was a great game for you. How do you plan to maybe improve for the next time?
Continue doing as we do, you know, continue practicing, keep getting with the quarterbacks after practice, keep getting with the whole team, just watching film, all that stuff, you know, just keep doing as we're doing, and everything's going to fall in place, you know.
Nick, your first 2 touchdowns of the season through the first 4 games, you find the end zone. First thing you did, big smile, you ran over to the student section, started giving them all a high five. Yeah. Was that something that you've been kind of like waiting to do through the first 3 games prior? Now finally.
Honestly, coming from Canada, we're not allowed to celebrate, so like I just don't know how to celebrate. But like the first thing people are gonna notice from me is like I smile a lot. Like they call me Smile, like and the team. So man, I just saw the crowd, everybody was hyped, so I just came, hey, high five, you know, like just feed off their energy. So it was nice.
And that was UH wide receiver Nick Senecal, and before him you heard from quarterback Braden Shager and what they had to say immediately following their big 36-7 win over Northern Iowa. And I thought that was like the best way to end it for Nick Senecal. He had a pair of touchdowns, really had a good game on Saturday, and just the fact that he didn't know how to celebrate because it's not something he grew up doing in Canada. So you just let the emotions take over, and I think it was fine. Like I said, I watched the rebroadcast yesterday on Spectrum, and yeah, he just like the joy in his face when he got that touchdown and running over to the student section, and it was like, yeah, and he was all smiles. We'll have some of the video on our YouTube channel later on, but yeah, I love it. He just has like this big, beautiful smile, and he was so excited. And I'm
smile.
I'm excited for this kid and the game he was able to do and have kind of that breakout game. But albeit like shout out and congratulations to Nick Senecal for having this type of breakout game and getting not 1 but 2 touchdowns on Saturday.
Don't we have friends who are dentists?
They need to jump on the NIL.
I was going to say, we need to have some sort of dentist friend jump on the NIL train for Nick Senecal because, my God, like, movie star smile. And I see why his teammates call him Smiles because it was a big old smile, bright whites, and deservedly so because that's a young man who has worked exceptionally hard over the past few seasons to develop. He joked about how when he first joined the program, he couldn't even catch passes because of the velocity of which they were firing them into his chest. So it's cool to see the development, the growth of that young man come through on the football field and allow him to have a moment like that where he gets to go talk to the media post game. That's always fun, you know?
Yeah, Nick Senecal's second in receptions on Saturday behind Pafele Ashlock, but Pafele targeted 13 times to Nick Senecal's 10 and catching for 63 yards to Pafele's 74. So it spread out a lot. 10 receivers were targeted in total. Not everybody caught the ball as much as they could have, but nonetheless, it was nice to see that distribution. And we talked about Jonah Panoke earlier as well, getting a touchdown, that first score, and he was 4 for 4 for 60 yards and that score. So it was nice to see, again, like just other targets. I know this is something that Michael has actually been harping on for like the last few weeks, and Can we go through other receivers besides Pefele? And obviously, Pefele is our best receiver, hands down. There's a reason why Braden goes to him. But at the same time, if you keep going to Pefele and one receiver, the offense starts to get a little bit too predictable. So it was nice to see the offense spread out to different receivers and see Nick Senecal get a pair of touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nick Senecal, and he talked about when he first got here, the velocity of the passes. And he's talking about Braden Shager. And I just want to take a little moment here to give Braden Shager his flowers, because I think we mentioned that he was, perfect in that first quarter. I think he started 12 for 12. And there were throws that he made in that opening first couple series where you go, wow, that is an NFL caliber arm. I want to talk about his third throw of the game where, UNI blitzes 3. He has to step up in the pocket, and he has either the option to run or dump it off to Landon Sims. And he dumps off to Landon Sims, but he does it where he almost sidearm throws it to Sims to get around the defender, like a Matthew Stafford, who also went to Highland Park like Braden Shager. And on the following play, there was a throw over the middle to Pofele Ashlock. If you watch it, it looks like it was behind. I know you harp on that, Kub, a lot, but he threw it behind for a reason, because Pofele was drifting, and if he had put Pofele through it where Pofele was going to, he would have collided with a defender, and the defender had a chance to make a play at the ball. But because he threw it behind, Pofele had to reach back, able to secure it with his hands so that the defender and use his body to shield it away from the defender. So great throw there by Braden. And then on the second drive, that big completion to Dekel Crowdis. I was watching the film, and Braden's back foot was on the Hawai'i 28 when when Braden let it go, let the ball go. Dekel was only at the UNI 45, but he catches it at the UNI 17. I did the math. I went to Waipahu High School, but that was 55 yards in the air, and that throws like that make you go, hey, this guy can play in the NFL someday. And that touchdown pass to Nick Senecal, he was drifting back on his back foot. So that on his back foot, drifting back, arching it over against press coverage, gets it to Nick Senecal for that first touchdown to put us up 22-0 after the PAT. So Braden Shager, way to go, bud. Way to go, man. You have a future on the next level for sure.
Yeah, and even, we talked about the dart and just that first touchdown too, Jonah Pinoke. It was a dart. Like, I didn't realize it was that fast while I was watching it in real time, and obviously can't go back when you're there and watch it. But when I watched it on Spectrum yesterday, I'm like, yeah, there were a lot of really good passes. But again, I think it's a lot to say with them kind of being a little bit more creative in the offense and it fitting Braden more, because if you're the quarterback and you're running an offense that you feel confident about, you're going to come out and play like that, because now he's like, okay, I feel comfortable. I believe in this offense. I believe where my receivers are going to be. And I said it last week. I'm like, Braden is a good quarterback, and he is the best quarterback on this team. It's just a matter of making sure the play calling and the offense itself is like catered to what the talent that Braden Shager is. And we were able to see that on Saturday. And I'm pretty sure people that listen to our show have heard it all the time that we've been trying to double down on, like, Braden is good. Like, don't call for his head yet. Like, he's a good quarterback. It wasn't his fault that linemen were fighting back and protecting him and getting those unsportsmanlike conduct penalties against Sam Houston. And it was cute because we saw a little bit of the offensive line doing their job to protect him as well. But also you could tell there was some holdback. There was that play where Braden got shaken up and the Northern Iowa defender kind of like seemed like he was kind of pushing him down. The lineman comes up, like picks him up, pushes the UNI guy on the side.
The
ref,
was Zen Sotelo.
I
was
think
the
so, yeah.
lineman who did
and the
that.
ref comes in and like he's like, "What? I'm just protecting my guy." And luckily it kind of got squashed at that. But I love to see the linemen still standing up for their guy, protecting their quarterback, and that hopefully bodes well with a lot of the fans that still believe for some reason that Braden almost leaving in the offseason might be hurting the locker room. Like they believe in their guy. They know he's good. We saw it on Saturday. And as long as we continue to not try to, as long as we being like either media or fans get away from wanting to have a pure run and shoot like there was back in the day, the run and shoot is a solid offense when you have the personnel. Braden Shager is not Timmy, Colt, Rolo, Bryant Moniz. That's just not his style. He's quite different, but he's a solid quarterback. So when the offense is going to his strengths, I mean, we will continue to see what we saw on Saturday. And I shout out to the coaching staff and everything for making this offense work, and it was phenomenal to see. And can you imagine how crazy it would have been if there were less drop pass? I think, who was it? I don't know. I forgot.
Alex Perry had a tough drop in the
Was that the one where it was, like,
game
right
where
in
it
his
hit him
chest?
in the chest. It would have been a third down conversion, and it ended up not being. And that was probably the only poor moment of the night where it really did feel like they were clicking on all fronts. I've been steadfast in my support of Braden. I think he's a good quarterback. The only question that I have left for him, and it's the same one I have had for his entire career at UH, can you do it consistently? Because the ceiling, you see why he's one of the top quarterbacks in the Mountain West every single year during the preseason. They're like, oh, this is a kid who's got the talent. Talent's there. Consistency now. And man, it looked pretty darn consistent on Saturday.
Woo! Time to get excited. All right, got to step aside for a quick break. We'll be back in a minute here on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, DJ Pauly B, and Michael Lescaro closing out the show. Man, time just went by really, really fast. Again, it's always going to be that way for Mondays as we get into UH football recaps.
Especially
NFL.
with breaking news.
Yeah, I was like, that was the thing that totally threw a wrench into everything. But we ain't complaining. I love when there's breaking news that happens, especially stuff that we can let you guys know about if you're especially driving around and not necessarily listening on demand, so you guys can get it right away. If you guys missed that, basically it was about the Mountain West schools. The remaining Mountain West schools will be offered by the conference a guaranteed amount of money. We don't know what the distribution is yet, especially for a school like Hawaii, who is only in the Mountain West for one sport. But they will bring in over $120 million in revenue from the departures of Boise, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State to the Pac-12. So even if they say they pay out the schools, who knows, maybe like $5 million each at least to stay, and then they'll have extra money to attract more schools to come and join the Mountain West. We'll see what happens, and too bad for you, Pac-12. I hope it's funny because
so sad.
They're not like, that's the thing where everyone is kind of saying, hey, well, look at us, we're the Pac-12. It's like, no, sorry, you're not the Pac-12. Washington State and Oregon State is not like, okay, if it was like USC and UCLA that were left, then I could understand, because then you could still say you're the Conference of Champions because they've won a lot of championships in their history.
Stanford probably helps you a little bit more in terms of the prestige of the programs that are left over. And I mean that with all due respect to Oregon State and Washington State, who do have some nice programs with them, but not in the same caliber of those four California schools.
Yeah, so, oh well, too bad Washington State. That's why I wanted so bad. I wanted so bad for San Jose State to come out with that win over Washington State, just because it's like, we got the chip on the shoulder. San Jose State is like, yeah, you know what? You guys want it. again, we go back to it's not Washington State's decision that that any of the schools get left out. But there's still going to be that added chip on the shoulder that we have better programs than the schools that are in the Pac-12. So
Yeah, I mean, it feels like if I was San Jose State, I would have felt like you think we're not good enough, you know? And now I'm sure they had a little bit of that bite as part of their performance. Also, by the way, if Hawaii gets an invite to the Pac-12, of course, it's the Conference of Champions. Always has been, always will be.
Conference of everybody's going to watch Hawaii. So we'll see what happens with them. But it would be interesting if Gonzaga ends up going to the Pac-12 for basketball only, and then you maybe you would have to pay a lot or really have some type of attraction for Hawaii to go to the Pac-12 football only. I know back in the day, a lot of people would say that. But again, Pac-12 is not the same Pac-12, so it doesn't have the same ring to, ooh, Hawaii got invited into the Pac-12. We just got invited to the new look Mountain West, essentially, or the new look WAC from back in the day. That's how it looks like. But either way, we didn't get into a lot of stuff today. We'll continue more NFL talks throughout the week and get into more college football. Also, a commitment coming in for the University of Hawaii men's basketball team yesterday. We'll tell you guys about that tomorrow. And now that recruiting is just about done, we're going to effort getting head coach Eran Ganot here in studio and put him on the hot seat. So it'll be a lot of fun. But for now, we got to go. So for Michael Lescaro over here and for Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ulea Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Chat tomorrow. Bye!
KGU AM K236CR Honolulu is the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760.